So I recently thrifted this quilt for about $8, and she was in pretty rough shape. The inside was really pilled, there were a lot of stains on the outside, but after giving it a wash and learning that it was Tallulah approved, I thought I would go ahead and try making a quilt coat. I did New Look pattern 6585, and I did the short version of it because with all the quilted coats that are coming out, I think the longer versions really look kind of like bathrobes. And so I just wanted to do more of like the shacket short jacket look. With cutting it out, it's a lot like regular fabric. Thankfully, there was no down in this quilt, but I would say that if there are specific details you want to use, like for example with the sleeves that I'm cutting out now, I wanted the edge of the quilt to be at the cuffs. So just, cut it out piece by piece and do it specifically and carefully. Also because the inside was so rough, here I am creating a fleece lining for the jacket. And because I had had such a hard time lining the velour jacket, the velour housecoat rather, that I made in December, I thought, oh, it'll be easier if I instead do a rough cut of this fleece and then sort of quilt it to the actual quilting fabric first before I sew the pieces together. So that's what I'm doing. There I was losing my first needle to this process, and let me tell you, multiple layers of quilt and fleece. Yeah, it was hard. That was honestly the hardest part of this project in general, was just working it through my machine nice and slowly. And after I've quilted down the fleece to the actual quilt itself, here I am edge finishing, overlocking the edges of all of the different pieces. Now, when I go to sew the pieces together, I'm checking my manual to see if there's a specific tension I should use for something heavier. I do end up loosening the tension and, again, using that heaviest duty needle I have. I sew the seam with extra seam allowance, and then I top stitch that seam allowance down. So as you can see, I used about like 2 centimeters and then did a 1 centimeter on both sides. So it was really secure and really helped keep that the fat puffiness of the seams down. And it started to take shape as an actual coat here. I trimmed away the excess with the fleece at the cuffs and at the bottom where I was going to roll the hem. Same thing along the hooded part, just to kind of keep bulk down as much as possible. And it was really hard to top stitch down the seam allowance when it came to the sleeves, but by sort of maneuvering all of the bulk out of the way, I was able to get enough top stitch down from one side and then the other that it still lays nice and flat. The pattern actually called for the pockets to be incorporated into the side seam, but I wanted to use all of the quilt details possible, so I did a pair of top front pockets here. Final step is to roll the hem and then turn over the front portion of the hood and down the front of the jacket. And my only complaint against this pattern is that it didn't really have any suggestions for closures, which when it comes to a coat, I mean, if it's for the cold, you want to close it. So instead of doing buttons or ties like I've done in the past, I found this long gray metallic zipper. And I liked the sort of contrast between the very twee, grandmotherly, folksy quilt and the heavy-duty metallic zipper. I think it added a lot stylistically and helped close it up and keep it nice and warm. So here I am stepping outside to model my coat in the cold. Oh, no, never mind. It's too cold to step outside. Well, maybe zipped up and with my hood up? No, still not worth it. Okay, well, at least it looks cute when I'm inside and need to stay cozy. Yeah, much better.